You're listening to Transformation at Work, your one-stop guide to Salesforce success. And this is Salesforce Tech Talks, comprehensive deep dives into the art of solutioning and implementation for Salesforce. Our expert squad of developers, solution architects, and industry veterans are breaking open the black box and digging into the possibilities of solution design and architecture. The show is brought to you by Jarrett, a summit-level Salesforce consulting and implementation partner and solutions provider, and I am Jeff Stormer, your host as always. I want you to take a moment and imagine something for me. You're heading into your shift at a nonprofit. Maybe you're a volunteer, maybe you're a paid employee. Either way, your goal for the day is pretty clear. You're here to make an impact for a cause that you believe in and maybe, just maybe, make a difference in someone's life. But in practice, what you're really doing is the grind. Instead of making a difference, you're pushing paperwork, you're filling out spreadsheets, you're doing a million other small little tasks, all of which take time away from contributing to your organization's mission. And to cap it all off, the second that you sit down, you get an email from your boss, your company is rolling out Salesforce, and you're taking all day tomorrow to learn how to use it. Answer me this. Do you think you're feeling excited about that fact? Are you looking forward to putting your precious time towards learning how to use some new, unfamiliar platform when you've just barely got your own system under your control, and that system is one that you've built from the ground up? Probably not, right? What's more likely is you're more than a little frustrated. You're probably offering up some level of resistance to the idea of taking on this new technology, and that resistance in turn becomes a problem for team leaders who recognize what Salesforce can offer in terms of allowing your team to focus their efforts on making those positive outcomes in the world, but who have to get you, the employee, on board with Salesforce to make that happen. And that challenge, overcoming employee and volunteer resistance, getting impact-minded team members excited about new technology, and meaningfully driving user adoption, particularly in the nonprofit sector, that's what we're sitting down with our experts to discuss today. Here's Antonia Moore, training lead at Jarrett, who's been in the Salesforce ecosystem for almost 15 years and got her start in the nonprofit industry, breaking down in detail why it's so crucial in the nonprofit sector in particular for team leaders to give employees the support and tools they need to do their jobs effectively.
You don't get into not-for-profit for the paycheck. You don't. You get into it for the good that you can do for others, right? This is just like the teacher situation. We should support the teachers who teach our children the same way as these people who work in not-for-profit to do good for the community, because we all benefit from that. So let's invest on the other side for them so that they can do the work that they need to do that helps us all.
But unfortunately, many nonprofits simply don't realize they need to take that sort of people-focused approach to transformation. Richard Smythe, Jarrett's Senior Director of Consultant Services and Education and Nonprofit, has been in the nonprofit and education ecosystem for almost 20 years as both a consultant and a customer, and has seen firsthand what happens when these sorts of misalignments occur. Here's how Richard puts it.
One of the things that oftentimes a lot of organizations, when they're going through a transformation like this, they don't consider is the people that are going to actually support the system, right? So the IT department or the product owners or the admins that may have been using a different system or a different tool for many, many years, and now they have to learn this new tool and how to support it. And so, a lot of times we focus on the end user, but we also have to focus on the people that are going to be supporting the systems, right? And making sure that they understand it, right? Because at the end of the day, what we want is we want them to be enabled on the platform for the long term. There's a huge investment they're making as an organization. So how do we make sure that the operational support and the evolution of that system meets the needs of the organization? And a way to do that is making sure that your IT group are empowered and enabled to support that system.
Now, when those internal teams are truly kept at front of mind, as Richard describes, the benefits of bringing Salesforce into a nonprofit organization are pretty profound in terms of better efficiency, reduced overhead, and the ability to give people more time and agency to do what they really want to do, which is, of course, advance the mission of their nonprofit. But unfortunately, as Antonia mentions here, taking an approach that doesn't factor those internal teams into the process often leads to pretty disastrous effects on long-term adoption, and, well, I'll let her describe it.
You get this brand spanking new system. It looks beautiful. It works beautifully, but no one uses it. That was a waste of time, effort, and money.
And so the question that naturally follows that is, well, why aren't employees using this cool, beautiful new system?
In the context of nonprofit technology adoption, common resistance factors can also be fear of change, concerns about things like data security and perceived complexity.
That's Amika Elamamba, Senior Change Management Consultant at Jarrett and a certified change practitioner and project manager with over a decade of experience in driving change effort within organizations. And as he breaks down here, the first real step of that process is to understand exactly what issues you're likely to encounter, and the way to do that is through comprehensive readiness testing.
Leaders can actually help with mitigating this type of resistance by conducting that initial change readiness assessment, right? Which is specific to the change. For example, the Salesforce implementation, right? Identifying the nature of anticipated resistance and tailoring appropriate responses. It's also very key. For example, if there are concerns about data security, leaders must emphasize also what those data security measures are, right, that they are putting in place to checkmate whatever concerns those might be. So it's effective change management. Integrating this in nonprofit technology adoption would really help to transform that resistance to readiness, uncertainty into empowerment.
Once you've taken on that initial readiness assessment, you can really start to dig into the specific issues your team may be facing and coming up with strategies to address those challenges. And so, let's do exactly that. Let's look at a few key problems that teams face and how nonprofit team leaders can really meaningfully address them and drive that long-term adoption that's going to make a real difference within their organization. First up, let's talk about user anxiety and the fear of change. Here's Richard.
Sometimes a lot of those systems that are currently in place and that will be replaced, let's say, for example, by a Salesforce product, is some of those folks often have built those old systems, right? And so like over time, they were part of the evolution or the build of those products. And so moving to a different solution often can create some anxiety around that.
And you're not just using the functionality. That's just one thing. You're also doing your processes in a different way now. So that can cause a lot of angst for people.
That angst is often exacerbated when communications about the change come through that are, well, let's say lacking in personalization.
Oftentimes what we see is blanket statements or emails that go out that's we're doing this thing and training's going to be on these days, and it doesn't really sort of address the individual needs or anxieties that those specific groups may have.
Simply put, if nonprofits want to drive adoption, they need to show their team how this new solution benefits them.
What's in it for me is always a really powerful sort of approach where you have to understand each of the different groups that are involved in the transformation. What are the things that they're worried about? What are the things that they care about? And then tailoring your communication, your training, and all of the education around the transformation to the specific user groups.
So communicating the benefits of the technology for both the organization and the employees is also a good way to get everybody on board, engaging with people and having that conversation going.
During training, what we make sure of is that, one, we find out the whiffums. You have to know what is important to that end user. And at that point in time, those are your people who work for you in the day in the life, the everyday things that they do in this company. They're the ones who keep it going. And we're going to expound upon that. We're going to make it so that that thing that works for them, we teach them how to use that across the board.
And truly engaging with employees and bringing them aboard does not require reinventing the wheel, right? Clearly communicating how the change aligns with the nonprofit's vision and goals is one key way to get that conversation going. And then also you can embark on things like town halls, meetings, and interactive sessions where you can address concerns and doubts in a very transparent manner. All of these help people feel like they are part of the change, involving the employees in the decision-making process also regarding the technology implementation brings everybody along on that journey. And that's really is a starter to transformation.
Speaking of that same kind of clarity and personalization brings up another challenge area that many teams face while trying to drive adoption for their teams, and that is, well, training plans that take a one-size-fits-all approach and don't adequately reflect the many ways that employees learn. Now, that approach is never taken intentionally, but rather because budget being a constant struggle for every nonprofit, it's simply a case of, as Antonia breaks down here, training not being given the attention and resources that it needs to really meaningfully drive that adoption long term.
Nonprofit has not always had the funds to invest in training like they should have. That has always been. And so the end user has always been put on the back burner and kind of has to learn things as they can. That doesn't always, make for the best working environment. That's why people kind of get burned out because you're working harder than you need to be working. We cannot go into training with people in the old school form of training with that 3-inch binder and we're going to go through all of this stuff and we're going to, no, because the modern learner does not gravitate towards that, nor will they even delve into it. We have to present training the way that people learn in the modern way they learn, micro learning.
No, I totally agree. I think that's the thing too, right? It has to be tailored, right? There has to be small bite-sized chunk. It goes back to the capacity, right? And like, what can they absorb? And they're not going to sit for a 3 to 5 hour training and get any benefit from that.
No. And the old way was that we built and then we would wait to the end and we just fire hose it into them. That's the way we were doing it before. And that does not work. That is not the best way to impart knowledge to people. We have to do it the same way we do as in our public school system. We put our children in pre-K and they have to go a half day and then we baby step them up to high school and college. And that's the way Gerent does our customers. We actually go in and we give them bite-sized pieces of information in a way that they can understand it, in the way they want to understand it. And guess what? We do it in a medium that they are comfortable with. You don't have to go to your PC. It can be right on your phone. But we do that so that customers feel better about the implementation. And you know what? They accept it and embrace it.
Absolutely, I agree. I also think that, from a change management perspective, we've worked together with training. And so we could echo the same words, like personalized training, customized training, tailored training. Training is relevant to each employee's role, right? And it's very essential for inspiring that excitement, that enthusiasm, the understanding, right, that you're seeking from your employees. And it helps direct the benefits, right, that they stand to derive from technology implementation like a Salesforce cloud solution, right? Because you've tailored it, you've done a needs assessment, and you're actually addressing their specific needs. I think that goes a long way to get adoption going.
Which brings us to another major challenge area that nonprofit team leaders face when encouraging employee adoption, and that is, even with all the best training, the most personalized communications, you're still ultimately asking employees to step away from the meaningful work they're doing to support their communities to learn something new and figure out a new process. Here's how Richard puts it.
It's hard for people to, again, they have limited capacity in their day-to-day work, and so they've still got to do their day job and learn new systems and new processes, and that can be really difficult for people.
But that is the first thing that we do. I think that just like the employer goes into a project with a set of steps that they're going to take to develop this functionality, to do this implementation, I think that the next logical step is, okay, so how are we going to deliver this to our people properly, in a way where they can gravitate to it? And I think we have a plan. And I think it goes a long way towards an employer that says, you know what? We're going to take half a day on this day and we're just going to learn. Put your workload aside for a half a day. And we're just going to cater to you today to ensure that you guys know what you need to do in order to be able to use this system. Buy them lunch. Give them the time that they need. What we find sometimes is that a company will set aside, hey, we're going to give them a half day of training. But guess what? There may be other things that come up, or this functionality may be a little hard for some people to grasp. So we need another plan to extend it because it may not be enough time. I think we make this totally end user focused, totally. And let me tell you why we have to do that. For the admins, for the end users and everything. The people at the top sign the checks. They decide that we're going to have this project. But it is that end user at the bottom who gives you the return on your investment. That person is key. We have to learn who to feed first.
Yeah, of a brown lunchbox here sounds very exciting, right? For getting that engagement and getting people to be on board and actually open up to you as well, because feedback is a part of the process. Now, talking about balancing the time spent to get that learning to be able to drive and foster user adoption, we should all understand also that the organization, particularly here in the nonprofits, it's a going concern, right? We do not want to disrupt the operations, right? Leaders can actually support employees offering those flexible learning options, right? Such as self-paced online courses, which I'm sure Antonia, you always give that on-demand learning as well, right? So providing the resources for the on-the-job learning that they need and adjusting workloads as needed. All of this can help accommodate that learning curve, right? And actually encourage the people to make themselves available, knowing also that somebody else is taking care of things while they find some time to learn.
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of personal benefit too, right? So, for example, if we are going to provide training, and so one is the accountability, like making sure that the people take the training and like they're accountable to making sure those training was completed. But you've also got to show that personal benefit. Like, what are the benefits of becoming a certified admin? What are the benefits of understanding how to write dashboards and things like that? There's definitely, and those are things too. There's potential opportunities, like pathways to enable people within the organization to grow. So it's just not them learning that's a tool for the sake of it. It's actually helping you to evolve your career. And I think like those are some of the things that are important too. How do we tie back the training to this can lead to something else, right? And if you want to enhance and evolve your career, here's the way you can do that through these types of trainings and certifications.
Oh my God, did you hit the nail on the head? I started my career in not-for-profit. And I trained several people, and I quickly learned that people understand the value of this thing. And when I trained them, I lost all 4 of them to better jobs. I lost all 4 of them, but guess what? They understood the value of it. They knew what it was. I think if employers give this to people and make them understand that we are giving this to you for you to build your professional self as well as to do our work, people see it as a give and take situation. That's an employer you want to work for.
So, personalized communications have gone out. Training has been invested in. Change management teams have been connected with employees. Team leads have stepped in to manage that balance between day-to-day operations and learning new technology. All systems are firing and the implementation is underway. And there's still one major area that often comes up to challenge that sense of long-term adoption, and that is an organization might fail to track success as it goes. Like any long-term project, this kind of change management requires regular check-ins and an active investment in adoption to make it a success long-term. Here's Amika with a breakdown of how that looks in practice.
So there are 3 key ways, right? We can look at what the goal at the end of this journey is going to be. And that's number 1 is going to be the speed of adoption, right? How quickly are people getting on board that transformation initiative and making use of it? The second one will be the ultimate utilization, which really just aggregates the number of people and employees that are on board, that new technology, and making sure that investment was not an exercise in futility, of course, right? And finally, there's also proficiency. What's the margin of error? How independent are people on board, the new technology? And all of these 3 factors help, team leaders to also track success through things like metrics, how the users adopt, what's the user adoption rates, right? So those are also key areas you can look at it. Efficiency goals as well is also something we want to track as we go along. It's very key also that even after the implementation phase, you still get stakeholders' feedback, because this helps provide that legacy, right, for future initiative coming into that organization, and aligning the entire goal, right, of that technology transformation with the nonprofit's mission is also very good, because this helps drives the goal. And also successful check-ins would involve regularly gathering the feedback and adapting strategies that can maximize long-term adoption and impact. It's very important to look at the long-term benefits for any transformation initiative, particularly for Salesforce implementation projects.
Look, there will always be challenges when it comes to encouraging adoption, especially in the nonprofit sector where budgeting and investment will always be tricky, to say the least. But with the right commitment to change management and training, team leaders can make some amazing things happen, as Amika and Richard break down here.
Yeah, I just want to put this out there just as a way of encouraging leaders, even in the nonprofit sphere, even leaders at the highest level, of course, because, given they have limited fundings, right? The B word, right? And I'm talking about budget right here. And so for nonprofits, it's always very good to have that long-term vision and employee engagement, right? This naturally fosters an environment for change. Conversely, if you don't look at that long-term vision and you're more about direct decision-making and focusing on short-term results, this can inadvertently impede change adoption. So well-thought-out needs assessment is very important for leaders to gain a deeper understanding of the advantages of integrating change management and training as part of that process for technology implementation, right? And this is very effective for leaders overall to achieve that desired success.
Going back to, I think, Antonia's original first statement was, people don't get into nonprofits to earn money. They get into nonprofits because of the mission, right? And so if we can show that all of this effort was worthwhile and it's making a change and it's driving and helping us to accomplish those nonprofit goals, people are more likely to continue, right, and believe in that transformation. So for me, that is critical. And any technology strategy or any transformation, that's one of the biggest challenges I see is like, how do nonprofits take their organizational vision and mission and goals and objectives, and the technology strategy has to be closely and tightly coupled to that. And so I think, like, if you can get that right, all of the things that move forward in terms of the adoption, right, and demonstrating the value and the ROI that is provided to the organization, like, that stuff is so critical, and that's how you drive true transformation.
The nonprofit industry is, at its heart, about making the world a better place. And the hope, for employees at least, is that every moment they spend working in that sector is aiming towards that goal. But the reality is, technical hiccups, repetitive processes, and convoluted workflows ultimately take time away from helping people and move employees towards fighting against inefficiencies. Technology can help to mitigate that, but for employees to understand that and really use that technology to make a difference, they need to be shown how it can help and how it all ties into the core of the mission. Do that at every stage of the process, from initial communications to training to ongoing check-ins, and you'll have a team that is excited to learn, invested in the change, and ready to use the technology to its fullest potential. And that is transformation at work. This has been Transformation at Work. Thank you so much for listening, and thank you to Amika, Richard, and Antonia for a wonderful conversation and some incredible insights. Transformation at Work is, as always, produced by Jarrett in collaboration with Salesforce. I am Jeff Stormer, your host and producer. If you enjoyed the show, consider leaving us a 5-star review on iTunes or Spotify, or head to jarrett.com to sign up for email updates when we release new episodes. Until next time, thank you again for listening, and we hope to see you again soon.